Oh, yeah.
Give the mic any credit.
Hello. Good morning.
I is my math right? If there's 3.6 million people born in the U.S. every year, are you telling me 2% of people fucking die from fentanyl overdose of that's like that those are your chances? It's 100,000 a year now we're at.
So, would that be 0.5 maybe? Would it?
10% of 10% of a million is 100,000, right?
Right. So if it's 3.2,
So if it's 3.6 million, it's like 2%, isn't it? No, is my math bad?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, what do? I divide 3.6 million into 100,000. Would that get it for me?
So
these are really bad odds.
yes, that is what we would do. 100,000 divided by 3.2, right?
100,000. I got my little divided by 3,600,000.
Why does it say?
Dude, it is. It's 0.2. It's 0.027. That's almost 3%.
I don't get it though, because 100,000 is
10% of a million. So then I just divided that by 3.
Gosh, that's bad. I've never done that statistic before. Did you? You might have.
Dude, I'm telling you, I cried my eyes out last night. Jorge Ventura, the greatest living journalist alive today, in my fucking opinion. Jorge Ventura sent me your film, and I watched it. Just in the living room, I pulled it up. I start bawling. My sister walks by the TV. She starts crying. I'm holding my face like this, trying to keep my shit together.
Wow.
Caleb, meet Dominic. Caleb.
What's up, man?
Nice to meet you, Dominic.
Hey.
Caleb is deployed overseas in an undisclosed location somewhere in a desert.
Wow.
And so he's forced to work on the show.
Stuck here perpetually.
The name of the movie we're talking about is called Dead on Arrival. It was made in 2020. I also cannot recommend enough another movie he made called Knox's Story. I was unable to find The Other Side, which is another movie he made. I sent all 3 of these movies to my nephews last night. And I said, boys, you got to watch this shit. They're like 14, 16, and 18.
Perfect. Yeah.
The premise of the movie is we've left the era of don't do drugs, they're bad for you, and you might get addicted to holy shit. If you get one speck of fentanyl, you're toast, and it's everywhere. And here's the catch, people. The vast majority of these people aren't doing fentanyl. It's getting in their shit, and they're dying from it. They're smoking weed. They're taking a fake Xanax. They're taking a fake Adderall. They're snorting some lines with some buddies. And somehow some fentanyl has got in there and they die. And I lived through the whole entire, all the cancer deaths. I lived through all the AIDS deaths. And I never have had this many people in my circle die ever, not even close, from all those other things. I don't know a single person who died from COVID. And yet I know a shitload of people who've already OD'd on fentanyl. And none of them, you're right, and as you say in the movie, none of them were doing fentanyl.
No.
They weren't. It's like going to the store and buying an apple and you bite into it and it's a fucking cantaloupe.
That kills you. Yeah.
Right. That's the bad part.
Yeah. Right.
Wow. Congratulations, dude. What a powerful movie.
Thank you so much. Yeah. So my wife is sitting in this room and it was literally her and I. Essentially, Christine, who you see in the credits, she kind of got me into this space. She had made a really, really successful film called Overtaken, but she was just a mom from where I grew up who just wanted to do something about this issue a long time ago. And so we partnered together a decade ago almost to start making these films. It's been kind of like a one-man crew ever since. We made Dead on Arrival with like $30,000, I think, that was donated. And we flew these parents out to where I am, rented an Airbnb, and just told their story. And that's done it. It's now gone around the world. millions of views, maybe. I don't know. I've put it out for free. It's free to download for schools, which some people will be like, well, why would you do that? And you can't track how many people have viewed it. I want it as little barrier to entry as possible.
Don't listen to those idiots. Don't listen to those idiots. That whole view thing and likes, and it's all jackassery.
Yeah.
It's all yeah. I'm the greatest living podcaster alive, and I get 7 likes per Instagram post. Tell him, Caleb.
Yeah, what's up with
He's
that?
not wrong.
Hey, I'm sorry. Did you say you met your wife while making a movie?
No, I'm saying she's in the. Well, actually, kind of. I met my wife making a video. That's a long story, but her and I were basically the crew for Dead on Arrival. I mean, it was. I wrote it, shot it, directed it, edited it, and her by my side, hugging the parents as they're crying in between takes. And we just sat there and did it. I'm not some big production or crew or budget or whatever. It's just.
It sure looks like it. But your wife's not Christine Wood.
No.
She
is another man's wife and is much. Well, I won't say that. She is older than I am.
Right.
Right.
Different league. We'll say just different league.
Right.
Is she between me and you, or is she me? I'm 50, as they say.
She is above. She's gone before you.
Okay. Your first movie, how old are you?
I'm 26.
Okay. Caleb, can we play the trailer? I know he's so accomplished already. His first movie was in 2004. His first movie was in 2014. This is a 30-second trailer from the movie Dead on Arrival. If you are a parent, you have to see this. It will be the fastest 20 minutes of your life, and you will get to purge some tears. Here we go. I can't hear it for some reason.
It's really quiet. Let me find the middle.
Okay, I'll listen very well. What? Say it again. I gave you a shitty link.
It's just really quiet. I'll find another.
Okay, it's probably on the trailer's on YouTube also. And that was on YouTube, but that's in stories.
Mm-hmm.
And where do you live? Where's home for you, Dominic?
So, born and raised in Orange County, California, and went to school in Pennsylvania. Came back to work in Los Angeles for 3 years, and now the beginning of 2020 moved to Boise, Idaho. So a little twist and turn there.
Wow. Yeah. And why Boise?
For many reasons that California is not anymore. Idaho is, and that's where I wanted to come and raise my family. Just values aligned more with what I'm going for in life for the future. So I loved growing up in California. I just have watched it kind of fall apart over the past 26 years. And so I couldn't do it. I was just, for my kids and my future family, it seemed right to come here. And it has been. We're super blessed to be here. So.
Okay, let's play this. And I have questions about Boise because I've heard Boise's turning into California too, and you have to go further north. You have to go like towards Coeur d'Alene.
Yeah, they're saying that,
but still good. Boise's good.
Yeah.
Okay, action.
Heard of fentanyl? It's time to learn about it now. Fentanyl is being deceitfully disguised as almost any drug, and as a result is killing over 150 people a day in the United States alone. My new film, Dead on Arrival, sheds light on this silent crisis that is stealing the lives of curious young people. I'm asking you to watch and share it right now.
And this O'Connell, there's an O'Connell family that gets a thank you at the end of both Knox's story and Dead on Arrival. Who are those cats?
Yeah, so he has funded every one of these films I've done. His name is George O'Connell. He owns O'Connell Landscaping, which is in South Orange County where I'm from. So he'll do like all the plants for Laguna Beach and all that kind of area.
For people who don't know, Laguna Beach is off the hook. This area is extremely wealthy area, beyond wealthy.
Yeah. So, and he is beyond wealthy as a result of that. And he's very graciously donated all the funds to make these films with literally all he's asked, oh, maybe put my name in some text or something. Super humble man. And man, I mean, there's a great reward for him for having funded this film, which has saved many, many lives, I believe, already. And
I believe so too. Do you think when I was a kid, Dominic, it was Nancy Reagan and Ronald Reagan, and it was just the no campaign. And then they had that thing called DARE. And after they did studies on DARE, that was like some acronym for keeping kids off of drugs. The final belief on DARE is that it actually introduced more kids to drugs than got kids off of drugs, and that the Just No campaign was actually a failure, worse than a failure. It backfired and introduced kids to drugs and caused them to rebel. And I watch your movie and I don't get any of that effect from it, but I'm concerned that I'm just old. And maybe, have you ever thought that maybe your movie would make kids want to do drugs? I don't see that at all, by the way. I want to tell you, like, I have 3 little boys and I'm like, holy shit, you know?
yeah, I mean,
what are your thoughts on that?
I think you're right about DARE and the Just Say No. I think drug education, even when I was in school, was pretty corny and something to be made fun of, honestly. Drugs, I remember, or DARE, pardon me, people would say stands for like drugs are really exciting or something like that. And they'd make fun of the acronym, right? And make some trendy t-shirts or stickers or whatever. And kids would just make fun of the Just Say No. Kids don't like to hear no. They like to hear yes. And so they don't want to be told what not to do. I remember someone was telling me the other day when they're training pilots, when the pilot's flying the plane, if you tell the pilot, hey, don't hit this obstacle, he's more likely to hit the obstacle than if you say, hey, go around this. And so what I tried to do with my first film, The Other Side, it was actually about telling kids, hey, I'm not telling you don't do this, I'm telling you go this way. And it was a film interviewing a bunch of, we had a UFC quarterback, we had a fashion model and actor, people, young kids who were really successful already, who had decided not to go that route. And it was like, hey, follow your passion and your purpose kind of thing, and you'll avoid this. That message still works, but is not complete because of fentanyl now. So now I've had to go back to telling them, all right, I know you don't like to hear no, but I'm telling you, if you don't want to die, you got to listen to the word no, because there's no room for a mistake or a try or an experiment anymore. And so when I'm telling them it that way and as raw as I did in Dead on Arrival, I think they get it. And I think they're smart enough to see, all right, this guy's not just some goofy, parent or police officer telling me, and police officers are not goofy. I'm just saying,
right.
Bring in the education that they bring in. It's not just some corny, like, don't do it because, you're going to die and you're going to this. It's like, no, look at the deaths. Here's the parents crying. Imagine that being your mom and your dad. And I think they can see that and understand, okay, I actually need to not do this and I need to listen. And we've heard it with parents and teachers who have reported after kids watching the film. Just the other day, it was shown at Porter Middle School. I think it's in the Valley near LA. And teachers were reporting to Jaime, the dad in the film, saying these kids are literally walking back to class, some in tears, looking at their friends like, dude, I'm not going to do drugs ever, with a straight face.
So it does make kids cry too. That makes me happy to hear that. I really couldn't tell, because every time the parents would talk, I would imagine I was them and I would fucking just come unhinged. Literally unhinged. I was sobbing.
I get messages and comments from kids in middle schools or high schools saying, hey, they showed your film in my class today and it brought me to tears. I cried the whole time. And I think it's them imagining putting their parents through that kind of pain.
Good.
And that keeps them from making that.
Good.
A parent DM'd me though, and this kind of messed with me a little bit a couple of days ago. And she said, hey, I tend to ask people, what did I do wrong in that film? What did I miss? What could I have done better? And this is a parent who does some drug education and stuff like that for like underprivileged youth. And she said, well, your film does really well for the kids I show it, but there are some who don't have parents who love them like that and who maybe wouldn't cry for them, or at least they don't feel like they would.
Right.
And so that message kind of goes over their head a little bit. They feel like no one loves them enough, so they wouldn't disappoint anyone really if that happened to them. And that really kind of messed with me. But I kind of wish I had put in the film, like, hey, you may think you're alone or you don't matter, and maybe that's why you're trying a pill or this kind of drug, but I want to let you know you're not alone. I care about you. There is someone who loves you and cares about you who would not want to see you gone from this thing. So something to think about for the future messaging. But
the reason why I liked your message is I didn't do drugs for any of the reasons that they say that people do drugs. Like, I wasn't rebelling. There was no peer pressure. I wasn't running or trying to mask anything. It was there. There was no, it was just, you know what I mean? Just in high school, my parents just had a liquor cabinet, and I just was just like, I'll try this. Or I like the way it feels. I mean, another thing that resonated with me, and we'll try to connect all these, is I actually, for some reason in the 7th grade, my ankle started hurting. I have no idea why. And my mom took me to the doctor, and it was just nagging me. And the doctors actually told my parents that the reason why my ankle was hurting was it was some sort of rebellion on my part because my parents were divorced. It was just fucking nuts. My mom told me that when we got in the car. I'm like, this is fucking crazy. But anyway, they gave me Vicodin.
wow.
And my mom, both my parents were workaholics, and my mom just gave me the pills, and I could, regulate them on my own. And I remember taking a Vicodin at school, and all of a sudden thinking I was the coolest kid in school because I just got so calm. I was so chill. Nothing could faze me. I was like, wow, this is fucking amazing. These pills are amazing. And to this day, it stuck with me. I've only done when I hurt my back and they prescribed Vicodin to me, it hasn't been years. I don't use them because later on I want to use them recreationally. I want to sit down and watch a movie and take a Vicodin and drink a beer, right? And I never even thought, holy shit, that was introduced to me in the 7th grade. I didn't think about that until I saw your movie. I was like, wow. A fucking doctor. And then you mentioned in the movie the conflation of drugs. These are drugs, but they're prescribed to us as medicine. But they're not medicine.
No. And I think there's a whole issue with overprescribing and things like that, which I didn't touch on in the film. The reality is a lot of this happens because of sports injuries, or kids being treated like I was for depression or anxiety, had a kind of a rough childhood and just had some mental stuff I was dealing with at 15, 16, and doctor decided to put me on Prozac and Zoloft and stuff.
Wow.
Medication, and then give me Xanax as a backup, in case of emergency type thing. And same thing, I relate, I would take a Xanax and I'd be like, dude, all is chill up in here.
Yeah, I was so chill in class all of a sudden.
I would be going on a flight or whatever, going back between college, and I didn't really like flying too much at the time, and I'd take a Xanax, and then I hear Drake's song come on, Papa Xanax, 15 hours till I land, have me out like a light. And I'm like, yeah, I am out like a light. I'm not worried about nothing, and I didn't become a Xanax addict, thank God, but if I had been in a position where I couldn't get those pills anymore and felt like I needed them, okay, let me just get on Snapchat or hit up my buddy at college and say, hey, bro, you got anyone who has Xanax? I just need a couple, bro. I'm flying back home for Christmas, gonna go see my family. I just, where I can get a couple of Xanax. And cool, if it were now, today, that guy would be like, sure, dude, yeah, I got this guy, my friend on Snapchat, he sells these Xanax pills. Cool, man, let me get 2. All right, $20. Yeah, whatever, no problem. He'll show up to my dorm room, give me the couple pills. I open them, says Xanax, has the little lines in. I can break a little half off. Little do I know, it has no Xanax in whatsoever. It's been pressed to look like Xanax and is actually just a white pill binder with a bit of fentanyl in it. And I hop on to take that plane, break off 2 of those little squares, and I'm dead on the plane ride at home, and they're trying to resuscitate me, and I land, and I died of a fentanyl overdose. These are things that are happening now that I missed just a few years ago, even though I was a good kid going to college, had big plans for the future, and just needed a Xanax every once in a while to help calm my anxiety that I was trying to work through desperately, right? And so there are these good kids out there now who are not drug addicts, not looking to take fentanyl, just looking for some relief, and they're duped into taking this disgusting, horrible poison that ultimately kills them. And so it's a different world.
You do mention, I think it's in Knox's story, that the United States makes up 5% of the U.S. the U.S. makes up 5% of the world's population, but they consume 75% of the pharmaceuticals. And I have done a bit on this show that shows that I put a list of like the however many countries there are in the world, and I showed that our consumption of pharmaceuticals is larger than the GDP gross. What's GDP stand for? Gross domestic product.
Yeah.
It's more than half the countries on that list. So we spend more money in the United States on pharmaceuticals than the entire GDP of a country like Finland or New Zealand. Our pharmaceutical economy is stronger.
Yeah.
And that first popped on my radar one time. I was making a movie over in Kenya, and when I was flying back, I heard how much the United States spent just on sleeping pills. And I saw that our sleeping pill consumption was larger than the GDP of Kenya. And I was like, holy shit. Everyone's on drugs, huh?
Yeah.
I mean, when I say everyone, it's like, I think I heard 80% of the U.S. population pops pills on a daily basis.
It's wild. It's become so normalized, and people look at it as, they say self-medicating. That's like the term now. Oh, I'm just self-medicating. And it's like, what does that mean? You know what I mean? Self-medicating. It's just, I don't know. I feel like that, I'm 26, so I don't know, but I feel like that wasn't a term 20 years ago.
I always just heard it around marijuana.
Right.
People would say, hey, you self-medicate.
Yeah. And now that's just become a blanket term for, I'm just taking all sorts of pills and drugs and things. And it's just become okay. And people don't want to deal with any emotions anymore. I had another conversation of, men, particularly like masculinity and stuff, going out the window because men don't want to deal with emotions, and there's doctors and people are throwing pills at them all the time to cover up, and women too, but just avoiding actually dealing with emotions and working through things and building up strength and stuff in your mental toughness, so to speak, and just popping a pill. And it's just making men and women weak and beggars for these drugs, to the point where they'll hop on social media and buy a pill from someone they don't even know.
I think we're getting a hum from one of your mics. Do you hear it? It's like an electrical hum.
Okay.
Do you hear it, Caleb?
You do?
Maybe one of the plugs needs to be pushed in a little tighter.
All right, let me see.
Sorry to bug you.
No. Sorry. Is it still going?
Yeah.
Weird.
Will you try logging out and coming right back in?
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you. Did you guys hear that at home? It's a little zzz, sounds like a fly. Zzz,
Sounds like the flies that are coming around my office. The tally's at 36, by the way. I killed another one today.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
Men self-medicate with Viagra, and good website from the links in the Jeez Louise. Corey. My goodness. Let's see. We'll bring Dominic back in. It's still there. We'll just deal with it. Audrey, yes, I was actually depressed after I had a catastrophic knee injury in the ocean 3 years ago, so I get it. But also my friends don't incorporate things like eating right or exercise either. Another thing I'm noticing, this is off subject a little bit, but vaping, it seems like that's just like taken over our youth. I was talking to one of my nephews, and he said that his friend, him and one other guy, there's only two of them in their crew. These are healthy, good kids. They're the only two that don't vape.
Wow.
Are you seeing that everywhere?
I've seen it firsthand. I was a vape crackhead in high school and college. I'm not kidding. I've never drank, first of all, by the way. The long story, I grew up in AA meetings with my mom and stepdads and just kind of scarred me. Just didn't want to, go ahead, everyone else. But I just didn't have an interest. Hardly smoked weed, never, besides a couple of pills to help for my mental health, just no drugs. But nicotine and those e-cigarettes, never smoked a cigarette, but vaped for years because in high school, it was just like this new cool thing that tasted so good. And the flavors and someone handed me, here's vanilla. Ooh, oh my gosh, here's blue raspberry, and here's this candy, and this churro, and all this stuff. And next thing you know, I'm like 2 or 3 years down the line and actually addicted to nicotine.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And it's so worse now because now they've made so many different little discrete. I remember someone who watched my film said a parent, their kid said they caught him smoking, a vape or whatever. And they said, yeah, the bathrooms at school, the kids don't call them the bathroom. They call them the jewel room.
Wow. Is that the preferred vape, the Juul?
It was when I was. I think now there's like puff bars, I think, have kind of taken over. Juul got a lot of criticism for marketing to youth, and then they had to put some pretty strict regulations. I think they cut some of their flavors and stuff down, but this Puff Bar and all these other companies just saw what Juul was doing and just went full out with the colors and the different flavors and the
device is so nice.
Yeah.
It just fits very nicely in your hand. It's so nice. It slips in your pocket. It's thin.
Yeah.
It's nice on your lips. How did you quit?
My wife's laughing. So I had actually quit prior to meeting her in LA. I had gotten my wisdom teeth out, and I knew, I was like, I know I don't want to be a slave to this thing. This sucks. And so I was getting my wisdom teeth out at like 19 or 20, home from college. And they're like, okay, you can't use a straw or like suck on anything for like 2 weeks. And I was like, okay, so I can't vape then. But I didn't want to ask the dentist that. I just assumed, I was like, all right, I'm going to use this opportunity to quit. So then I had quit for about a year or two. Then I met my beautiful wife. And once we started dating, she had been leaving her Juul at home. I didn't know she was doing that. And eventually we had started living together at one point in LA. And she's like, hey, by the way, I have this Juul. Is that okay? Like if I do this or not? And I was just like, is that okay? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was like right back in because here's this beautiful woman that I love. And like, oh, now it's okay. I can handle it. And it was what, babe, probably 9 months or so of just full blown back to the crack, And then it got to the point, to answer your question, one day where I realized this was happening again. And I was like, this is so stupid. And we were starting to feel like you'd get kind of mucusy and stuff. And I got to the point where I was like, we're going to stop this one way or we're not going to stop it at all. And so I grabbed everything I had. I chucked it on the floor of our apartment, stomped on it, poured all the liquid out, threw it in the trash. And I said, we're never doing this again.
And that was it?
Haven't done it since. No. But
wow. It's very easy to relapse. Be careful. Always be on guard. It's so easy to relapse. Nicotine is so powerful.
Yeah. And I won't now. I know I won't now. And I'll say, wow, you just threw it on the ground. It must not be that hard. She spent months looking at it and like walking by people, and you'd walk by and smell it. And she'd be like, and I'd have to like say, no, we're not doing it anymore. We're not doing it anymore. It's, if you don't have that kind of discipline, don't even start, even with that, and that's nothing compared to fentanyl and pills either, by the way.
Isn't it interesting? That's the same theme in your movie too. And I've known this from a young age also. Nobody wants to be addicted to anything. No one wants to be addicted to the vape. No one wants to be addicted to drugs. No one wants to be a drug addict. It sucks.
Mm-hmm.
And then, and now they have this other term for drug addicts that freaks me out, and they call it homeless people. But those aren't homeless people. Those are people that I'd say 99% of the people who are homeless, what they've done is they've prioritized drugs over shelter. Mm-hmm. And so we have this giant movement to try to help homeless people, but it's like trying to help someone who's drowning but you help them. You don't realize they're drowning, and you try to help them with something else. You try to feed them. You would never like throw food at someone who's drowning. And that's what it's like trying to help someone who's homeless get shelter. It's like that's not the fucking problem. You're actually going to make it worse when you give them shelter.
Yeah, I was talking to someone who works with homeless the other day, and she had said, you know, a lot of these people that I am talking to or interviewing or trying to help, they just straight out say, I don't want to do life anymore. That's why I'm out here. Whether they're addicted to drugs or not, they've said, I just don't want to. It's too complicated. I have to get a job, and then all my money goes to rent, and I have all these bills and I have all these things. I'd rather not. It's too tough for me. It's too hard. And that kind of goes back to what I was saying about people not wanting to deal with emotions anymore. They just say, life is tough, bad things happen, so I'd rather just self-medicate and not have any responsibility. And it's just a growing trend. And it's really sad to see, you know. It's sad to see. And it's sad to see people, like you said, throwing money and things like food and stuff, which is not the root of that issue whatsoever.
I was homeless for many, many years, and every single homeless person I knew was addicted to nicotine, all of them, 100%. And it was only me and one other guy in the entire thousands of people that I ever met who were homeless. We were the only two who weren't addicted to drugs. We were the only two who didn't drink 40s all day and pop pills, smoke weed, but all the others did.
Wow.
All of them. And the other guy was some old guy. And it was crazy. It was absolutely nuts. There's a movie that you can see on YouTube for free. Everyone should see this. Everyone should see this. It's made by Dominic Tierno.
Yeah.
It's called Knox's Story. This reminds me of the movie. My brother has been battling drug addiction ever since college. He's 50 now. He's been in and out of rehab and recovery programs. I think those programs did nothing more than exacerbate the addiction. That's another problem. That's what that movie will really resonate with you. That's another problem with drug addiction. The recovery has become such big business, and it's full of landmines. So I have a friend who just went to prison, and I'm so concerned for him, because in there you just learn to take. And we've had a bunch of prisoners on this show. You learn just to take more drugs and how to be more involved with crime. And you start to realize that, this is going to hurt to say, but the vast majority of things that are supposed to help you really make you codependent. And that's probably why you left California, because we don't have a government that actually wants to help people. We have a government that's making people codependent. What does codependent mean? Instead of helping people get off drugs, it's supporting their behaviors. Mm-hmm. Instead of helping people with mental illness, we're supporting them chop off their penises or their breasts or do just crazy shit.
Yeah. Yep.
How did you find these parents in your movie Dead on Arrival?
So I heard about fentanyl from the first mother who spoke, not from her personally. I saw an article, like I said in the film. I said I saw this article. A kid died, 14 years old, from Aliso Viejo, California. That was a city that I had grown up in.
14.
And he was like smart young kid, right? Innocent. 14. I'm looking at him like, he's like a little baby kid. Like, and I saw pictures of him watching cartoons on the couch with his sister. I'm like, he took a pill and died? I'm like, and he ordered it off. I'm like, how did he do that? Right. And I'm not even that far out of, you know, like I still remember being that age. So I'm like, there's no way I would have done that at 14. What the heck? Like, I thought cigarettes were like, you know, intense then. And so I was reading this article and I'm looking at this kid and I'm like, I think this is kind of one of those like extreme stories that they share just to try to get clicks and stuff. And I'm like, I don't know if that's really representative of this fentanyl issue. And so I was like, I'm going to do some more research. I knew I wanted to make a fentanyl film. And so then I went to like, okay, there's these fentanyl addicts on the street. And I looked at heroin, which is now basically fentanyl. There's really not really heroin anymore. It's a lot of fentanyl. And I'm like, hey, do we do that? Do we go interview like Skid Row and all this stuff? I'm like, no, that doesn't seem right. Everyone talks about that. You know what I mean? And so I just kept circling back to this kid. And eventually I was like, let me see if there's any other kids dying from this. And so I looked, and it was like a city 10 minutes, 20 minutes away. A month later, another 14-year-old kid, same story, had a sleepover, took a pill, fentanyl, dead. And so I'm looking at fentanyl deaths, and I just see all these young kids. And I'm like, first of all, COVID's going on, so no one's talking about anything else. I'm like, how is this not being shared? Kids are dying in every state, every day from these pills all the time. I'm like, this is what we have to make the film 100%. So I hit up Amy, who was Alex's mom, the 14-year-old's mom, and she had started this organization, Void, with these 3 other parents who had all lost their children the same year, different ages, but same drug, same kind of thing, where they thought they were ordering something online and they got something totally different. And so we flew those 4 parents out here to Idaho, rented an Airbnb, and just told their stories.
And they all worked out? All 4 were good?
Yeah.
I mean, you nailed it. I was thinking after the movie was over, the filmmaker in me was like, God, I wonder, he probably filmed with 8 parents and had to cut 4 out. I wonder how he told them that he cut them out. You didn't have to cut anyone out.
No, there was stuff that I was sitting there. The hardest part of the film was choosing what to cut out, because it was, we had maybe like 45 minutes of footage with each parent, and you just want to say it all because people don't get it and you want them to get it so bad. But I had to keep it at a length where kids would pay attention,
Did you cry in every interview?
My wife and I were talking about this literally 2 nights ago. She was, and I'm so glad she's there, because, and you're a filmmaker, so you'll know, when you're, especially one-man crew, when you're on set and I have a job to do, I've been given this grace, I feel like, to not be emotionally influenced at all while I'm doing my craft. And so someone could be there telling the saddest story ever that if I just heard in a conversation like this, it might bring me to tears. And I'm just poker face. Like, in fact, I'm actually smiling and laughing sometimes, which sounds really cynical and sinister, but I'm not looking at it. Here's the thing. This parent son already passed. It's sad. It's horrible. It's disgusting, but I'm here to fight a battle. I'm here to make sure that this story goes out to millions of people and hearts are changed, and this doesn't happen again. So on the inside, I'm joyful. I'm looking at him crying on camera, telling his story, and I'm not going, oh, this poor guy, I'm going to cry with him. Blah, blah, blah. My wife does that. It's needed. They need a hug. I'm going, ha, ha, ha. Guess what's coming? We're going to change the world with this, and lives are going to be changed. So when I'm on set, no, to answer your question, I'm not really crying. I'm not down. I'm not depressed. I feel like I've been given a grace to do this and not be affected by it.
You're happy that you're getting content for a powerful film.
Yeah, and
you're like, oh, this is exactly what I needed.
This is exactly what I needed, and I'm just like, wow, thank God this person's sitting in front of me, the right person telling this story right now. This is exactly what we need, and I'm happy about it. I'm not happy about what he went through. That doesn't bring me joy at all. But I'm happy that we can use it to I'm happy that we can use it to turn it into something very powerful and very impactful and use it for good.
And then your wife is crazy emotionally available and vulnerable. And so then the person who's talking can even feel more safe because someone else is relating to them. And so you have the best of both worlds. You have a guy who's filming who knows what he's getting. And then you have someone else who's letting them know, yeah, it's okay to cry here. This is crying material.
If you watch Jaime, particularly the last parent in the film, I think I put his for last because I think his is just personally the most impactful on an emotional level. You can see him, I kind of frame my shots very centered. And so they're looking at the camera, but you'll see Jaime go and look over while he's talking. And he's looking at my wife because my wife is sitting there with tears looking at him, like crying. And I almost put it in the film, but again, I didn't just for time. He had stopped at one point and just couldn't talk anymore. And my wife ran to him crying, and they just hugged each other and held each other for like a minute and a half. And he cried on my wife's shoulder. Yeah. And you'll see at some points he does look over to her. And so it is a beautiful dynamic that we have, where I get to do what I do and she's there yep, right there. You saw him look over right there. Yeah.
Oh, you guys got to see this movie. It's such a good movie. I know some of you are going to be like, hey, why would I sit down and watch a movie that's going to make me cry? I'm telling you, this movie is going to make you a better person. This is going to make you a better person. I when I watched it, I was also thinking, I hope this doesn't scare parents to become overprotective, but what you do need to be is vigilant and you need to be a parent. You don't need to be overprotective. You just need to be a fucking parent and always be there for a kid. In Knox's story, the dad says, and I don't want to ruin that film for anyone, but the dad says the hardest part for him was the fact that his son, who was a mile away from him, didn't come to his dad. Didn't know that, hey, I was here for you. And so, somehow my mom has mastered that craft and always, like, I know that she's always there for me. I can always go to her. But man, that is, I think that's got to be one of the goals as parents, right? That's like one of the big takeaways for the movie. Build a relationship with your child so that they know they can always come to you.
Yeah, and be real with your kids. Like, don't sugarcoat anything, because if you're giving them a phone, they're hearing way more than you think they are. They know all the language. They know who's doing what. They know about every drug. They know about sex. They know about all these things already, and they're coming to you watching cartoons on a Saturday in their pajamas, and you think they're just this innocent little, and they're not. They're being fed all of this nasty darkness that you don't know about because you've given them access to the internet. That's what you've done with social media, and they're gonna see it. And you don't want them to see it and form their own opinions and thoughts about it before you get to them. You don't want to do that. I'm having my own daughter in March, and we've made a decision already. Like, she's just gonna know. She's gonna know about everything. I'm not gonna scare her. I'm not gonna have her live a life of fear, but she's gonna know about everything that's out there and everything that's trying to trap her, because that's what's going on. And I'd say don't hold back. Please don't hold back. You brought up Knox's story, and this is actually sad. Oh, yeah, our gender reveal.
Yeah, March. You got your baby coming in March.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's a very happy thing. But you brought up Knox's story. I don't want to forget it because it goes to the parents' point. Knox's dad actually recently passed from suicide. And I wanted
the fireman.
Yeah. And I say that, I mentioned that to say
he has 3 daughters left.
Yeah, I know. And it's just losing one was so much for him. He was a fireman, right? And his son had gotten clean, gotten into recovery programs, became someone who worked at recovery programs and brought hundreds of people to sobriety. And then, kind of out of nowhere, relapse, right? Met someone at like a TJ Maxx, picked up a bag of heroin, shot it up in the bathroom, dead.
Hey, was it a girl? Was it a girl he met?
It was a girl drug dealer. I don't know if they were together or what, but
isn't that interesting? I'm not saying it has to do with being a girl. It could go the other way. It could have been a boy meeting a girl, but isn't it interesting? That's the same story that you had in regards to the vaping.
I think sex and love are huge drivers for men to do stupid things, for sure.
Yeah.
But so that's what happened to Knox, and this is years after we made the film. The father knew we put the film out, right? He had seen all the good that had been done with it, and he was just fighting this battle internally that he maybe wasn't telling people about and didn't know where to go to for help. And unfortunately, I think it was last year, he took his life because of the weight of that. And that's going back to, kids seeing what it does to their parents and then realizing like, oh no, I never want to cause that to my mom or dad. And I know if Knox would have seen what it had done to his family and now his father, he wouldn't have done the same. But yeah, just as a message to parents, don't let it get to that point, right?
There, one of the most powerful lines, I can't even remember which movie it was in of the two. I think it was Dead on Arrival. It's a father who had 4 daughters, and one of them passes from getting killed by fentanyl. And I didn't understand why they would say getting killed by fentanyl, but the reason why it's getting killed by fentanyl is because they're not taking fentanyl. They're doing some other substance, and then the fentanyl's in there. and so they inadvertently take it and it kills them. They're basically poisoned. And that subject's also touched on. We'll get back to that. And he said that when he looks at family pictures now of him and his wife and his 3 daughters together, he doesn't see his family. He sees a family with someone missing. He only focuses on the one that's missing, and basically just talks about it as a daily, a minute-to-minute daily nightmare he's living because one of his children is gone.
Yeah, he said in the film, one of the most powerful lines I thought in the film was, he said, "It's an odd feeling looking forward to dying because you know that's when your heart will be made whole again."
Yeah, that I grabbed my face when he said that. That ripped me apart.
It's just a void. I think their name of their organization, Void, that they had started, is just a perfect representation of what they feel every day. It's just an empty hole every day that they're desperately trying to fill. And man, yeah.
So what? I had no idea that you could get drugs so easily using social media. You're telling me that these, and I don't use Snapchat. I don't use Facebook either. I just mess around on Instagram a lot. But basically, how does that work? Is Snapchat the drug? Is that the app that people use to get drugs, or there's a bunch of them?
Snapchat, I think, is the main platform used because of the anonymity factor, and the chats disappear, right? So I didn't see it coming. I used to use Snapchat in high school, but I can see how it's happened now. I saw Snapchat turn into a platform where young people would sell like naked pictures of themselves for money. And so now it's turned into drugs because there's a local feature that's been added to where now you can actually speak to people in your area. And so once that happened, drug dealers locally decided, hey, I can get on. No one will know who I am. I can talk to kids who are local to me within a driving distance, sell them drugs, and then everything disappears after the transaction takes place. So that's what's going on. They'll advertise and post their menu of drugs on Snapchat. It'll get picked up by the local, geotag filters or whatever that stuff is, right? And kids can search for these emojis and hashtags and things that are, for example, M30 is very popular. That's the Oxycontin M30, which is not really Oxycontin. It's made to look like the M30, and it's just fentanyl, those little blue pills. And so they'll get on there, order it, have this conversation with the dealer, totally anonymous, send them Snap Cash or whatever, or Venmo or Cash App through their phone, and the dealer will show up to their family's home. The kids will go outside and say, hey, my friend's here, he's dropping something off or whatever. Okay, honey. Walks outside, grabs a bag, stuffs in his pocket, walks inside. Good night, Mom, Dad, love you. Go in his room, put some music on, pop the pill. Parents find him dead the next morning. And they go, what the heck happened? Totally blindsided.
And by the way, he is not telling isolated incidences.
No.
Like we started the show, it's 2 points. If there's every year being born now is 3.6 million kids are born in the United States every year. And I think we're over 100,000 fentanyl deaths a year now in 2022. Caleb will look that up now. So that's 2.7% for those of you who don't know. That's massive. How come? Aren't the drug dealers afraid that when they get there, it's going to be a sting and it's going to be cops who set them up?
Maybe. I mean, I don't use Snapchat anymore for this reason, but I could imagine that they have some way to verify if it's a fake account or not.
Oh, wow.
I mean, you'd have to do a lot as a cop, to make one kid's account to look like a real kid, where they have friends and followers and all that. You can tell when an Instagram account's fake. I imagine.
Right. How does Snap? Can you? If I went to, I've never even used Snapchat. If I go to a Snapchat account, I can see like a history of like stuff people have posted? Is it like that? Is it like Facebook and Instagram like that? And so that I can. How would you verify if someone's account is real or not? Do you have followers on Snapchat?
There's like points. At least when I used it, there was points for sending snaps. You build up points. So like the amount of conversations you've had shows like a number. Like, this is how many snaps I've sent. And yeah, I think you can post stories and history. So there'd have to be friends and points there. And for a cops to do, I'm not saying they haven't, but to put all that work in just to try to catch one dealer, there's so many now. We're also not talking about the accessibility of how easy it is to become a drug dealer today. You can order all the ingredients for fentanyl on the internet and ship it to your door and put it together yourself. In fact, they sell the pill binders and the powder on Amazon. You can get them delivered by Prime.
By binders, you mean the stuff that makes the materials, the chemicals stick together, and then some sort of printing press, and you can print your own pills.
Yeah, both of those you can order on Amazon. In fact, if you search for supplement powder, they'll use different wordings on Amazon. They'll have all these different colors, at least last time I looked, and they had 20 or 30 different colors of powder of which you can make supplements or vitamins from, they'll say. And typically when you look at these listings, just like when you go to buy a t-shirt, right, what's usually the first color? If there's like 10 colors, it'll be black or white, like the most popular. The first color powder that is listed on these Amazon listings is this baby blue, which is the same color of OxyContin M30s, which tells me that's the most popular one that's ordered, which tells me that, these college age or whoever drug dealers who are wanting to put this stuff together in their own home will just
oh shit. Hey, and I just went to Amazon and I put capsule making machine, and you could buy, for sure you can make capsules.
There it is, mixed powder baby blue. I ain't lying.
God, this is nuts.
So you just got to figure out how to get the fentanyl, which is not that hard. I haven't dove into the black market or anything like that all that much, but it's
go ahead.
I was gonna say $10,000 worth of fentanyl powder turns into about $1 million on the street. So you could imagine why they're doing this.
And then inadvertently you end up killing people, thinking you're just being an entrepreneur selling pills, and you inadvertently kill. Has anyone been tried and prosecuted for any of these, like some 16-year-old kid who thinks he's going to sell fentanyl at school and he makes a pill and it kills someone and they try him for murder?
Yeah. So Matt, the one who we're talking about, where he only looks at his daughter who's lost out of his 4 daughters. Yeah. They just his daughter passed in 2020, and just a couple months ago got him to do a murder plea. And so 2 years.
The guy who sold it to her.
Yeah. And then he's one of the very, very, very few. In fact, most of the families who have this happen, the cops will show up and they'll treat it as an overdose crime scene, it's just an overdose death, which is way different than processing things as a homicide. So they don't take enough evidence to even. So Matt had to go through hell to literally just get the phone back from the police and all the information that they need to prove that this guy had knowledge of what he was selling, knowing that, right, the mens rea, as they say, like that he had the knowledge that he was selling something to this girl that was not what she thought it was, that he knew could possibly kill her. Just to get that took years, because they had showed up and basically said, "I'm sorry, sir, your daughter died of an overdose. She shouldn't have been using drugs." And they treat it like that. So now I think a lot of police departments and stuff are changing the way that they handle overdoses and showing up with a homicide team rather than a couple officers to, cry with a couple parents, because they're looking at it as killings and murders, not drug use.
Austin Hartman, I've got a buddy who works for the DEA. He said they're directing most of their attention towards homemade synthetic pill operators.
Yeah, there's so many of them.
Let's not forget the FBI has 80 people working there who are trying to block tweets. Jackasses.
Yeah.
After I watched your movie, YouTube started suggesting all these fentanyl movies to me and drug overdose movies to me. And what's so unique about your film is every single one of these other films is showing people who are on the streets. It's showing the streets. And what your movie shows is not the streets. These are people in suburbia, like you said, a 14-year-old kid who just goes on his Snapchat, orders a pill, has it delivered to his house unbeknownst to his parents, and boom, he's dead in the morning.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the movie, you put together a collage of all of these parents. That part, I think my sister was in the room when that came on, and she gasped audibly, like, "Oh shit!" How did you get those? Or how did you get all the? How did you get all those parents holding up the pictures and saying my child died from fentanyl?
Those were just a few of the personal relationships that those 4 parents have made after their kids dying. So they're in a Facebook groups and stuff with thousands, like Jaime says, thousands of parents who have all had this happen in their own home. And it was just, we put out one post and said, hey, I thought this would be a cool way to close the film. Would anyone be down to hop on Zoom? And we had, almost 50 parents just like that. I think it was next day or something show up. It was easy. That was easy. The easiest part was to find them, which is horrible.
Crazy.
But there are so many. Yeah.
Dominic Tierno, 3 movies, Dead on Arrival, Knox's Story, and The Other Side. Am I just my wife says I'm a bad looker. Why couldn't I find The Other Side? Is that because I'm a bad looker or because I went on YouTube, typed in The Other Side, and scrolled for 15 minutes. I'm not, no exaggeration, looking for that movie.
So I made that when I was 17. I had just graduated high school, and the film was bought. I didn't know what I was doing at that point. So I was paid to make that film, a very small amount, because I was young and I just wanted to do it. And so,
yeah, good on you. That's the way to do it.
I mean, I'm glad I did. I have no regret. But I didn't keep the film. It was basically, film was bought. And so there was actually a nonprofit made called Kids from the Other Side around that film. And I'm not sure that they're doing it anymore. It was a doctor who was leading that. And I have the film file. I just never uploaded it because they had been the ones to distribute it. And I think their accounts and websites, they're not doing it anymore.
Who is it? Did you sell it to Gravitas?
No, it was an addiction specialist, and he did a lot to help make the film possible. And he took it to a lot of kids in different states and stuff. And so they did well with it. I may put it up again. I may not. It's 10 years old.
Dude,
almost.
put it up.
It's, it's also one of those where it's like, there should be no ego in it. I made it when I was 17.
Right.
It's not the best thing I've ever made, but I'm really trying to point people towards this fentanyl message, because what happened here in Idaho, they're actually using my film, and I meet with some of the people who run the drug education here in Idaho. And so they'll say, well, we love The Other Side. It was just some of the schools, we don't know if we should, they think it's a little harsh, a little extreme. And I'm like, that's exactly what I don't want to happen. I don't want The Other Side to become a substitute for this fentanyl message, which needs to happen now. So I've been really trying to focus. My YouTube account, I put away everything besides that project.
Yeah, I noticed. Yeah. You really, your YouTube account, you're directing everything to that.
Yeah.
Man, what it's so. Are you working on another film?
Yeah. So next project, this is my first time saying it publicly, is a film that has been put on my heart called Guard Your Heart. And basically what I want to get into now is go into the root of why these kids are making this decision to try drugs or order a pill or something in the first place. And I want to look at social media because I have a personal story, which I'm going to tell in the film, about me being 12, 13 years old and Instagram coming out and me getting an iPod Touch or an iPhone for the first time and having this access to the internet and Spotify and streaming music and YouTube, and how that started to affect my brain, the way I speak, the way I thought about myself, the things I thought upon and meditated on, and how that ultimately caused a lot of suffering and pain and anxiety and depression in my life. I think a lot of music and pop culture and videos glorify drugs, sex, anxiety, depression, suicide, and there's no
question. You're too young to be there already. You got old.
No, I know.
You sound like a 50-year-old man.
And I'm not going to in the film. I'm not going to, like, kid, you guys stop watching this stuff. It's not going to work, right?
Yeah.
But I'm just going to tell them my story and say, hey, here's everything I consumed, right? I went in the bathroom and watched porn every day, right? I don't anymore, right? I've been freed from that addiction.
Hey, every boy would do that.
Yeah. No, but I
If
did.
you give them a phone, if you give a boy a phone, he's watching porn. 100%.
Watching porn. I
Yeah.
was listening to whatever music I wanted. All of a sudden, I was going on Xbox Live or PlayStation Live, whatever, and playing at 12, shooting a bunch of people and killing them on a controller, and then hearing like a 20-year-old yell in my ear that my mom's a whore and stuff because I shot him on Call of Duty. And you're laughing, right? And it's like, okay. But I'm 12 and I'm hearing this stuff, and that starts to become my language. So then I'm playing.
Is that the way it is? I've never played one of those games. That's a true, like you'll
Dude,
be, oh, it's true,
right,
Caleb. You shoot
It's
someone
so
and
bad.
a 20-year-old will call 12-year-old mom's a whore.
It's like, oh, fucked your mom, bitch. And then it's just,
Oh
like,
my God.
So I'm
Dude,
12, right?
yeah.
And I'm sitting there all day, and I'm not going outside anymore and with friends because now we're all inside playing games. And so I go play these games, and I'm online, and I'm hearing all this stuff, and I'm cussing back, and my parents aren't home, so I'm doing whatever I want, right? And then I go in my iPod, and I go jack off to do, get my steam off because I'm all amped up from shooting people online. And then I throw on some rap music, and it's talking about drugs and all this stuff. And I'm 12, 13, 14, and now it's worse because now it's social media, and they're looking at Reels and TikToks, and you watch the video, and the next one just pops up automatically, and they're sitting there with their eyes wide open, just letting anything come in the midst of doing all this, and they're addicted to their phones. And it's doing something to their minds. It's doing something to the way they think about themselves, obviously the choices they make, and that needs to be addressed in a huge, huge way because that's become so normalized, and parents have no idea what's going on in their kids' mind. No clue.
It's funny. One of the themes in the show is you should never give your kid. I don't think you should give your kid a cell phone. And I think that when parents say that they do it for safety reasons, that's just bullshit. Basically, what parents are doing is they're saying that they're scared and they're willing to jeopardize their kid to alleviate their own fear. There's this kid that my kid plays tennis with, and he didn't get his cell phone till he was 15. And then I've had some guests on the show who are just young people, your age, and they have their shit so together. And the thing I always hear from them, the common theme is, I'm homeschooled. I was homeschooled. I didn't get a cell phone till I was older. And even yesterday at the skate park, I met a 15-year-old kid. He was the coolest kid ever. He was so fucking cool. And I'm like, no, he was older now. He was like 20. I met him yesterday at the skate park. He was like 23. And I go, hey, dude, were you homeschooled? And he goes, no. And I go, when did you get a cell phone? He goes, not till I was almost 16. I go, were you the last one in your friends to get a cell phone? He goes, oh, yeah, everyone else got them when they were like 12. And I'm like, no shit. I go, do you think that's why you're so cool? He's, oh, that's a huge part of it. When you see it fuck your friends up, he goes, fuck them up. He's like, my friends all of a sudden change. Giving a kid a cell phone, you know, like when one of your friends would start doing drugs and they just change. I don't know if you had any friends who ever get into meth, but all of a sudden shit starts getting weird. It's like that with kids. You give them cell phones and they just start changing. Yep.
It's exactly what the film's going to be about. Because I started changing, and I said what I said about I went to jack up. I really don't like talking like that. So it's just, but I said it because that was my attitude. It was just like, I'm doing that.
Yeah.
You know? And it changed a lot for me now. So, but that's what it did. It changed me to where I would talk like that. I would think like that. And it was just, I had to live in my own little world, and no one had any idea. And it cost me for a long time. I'm still working through the memories and kind of renewing my mind, to not think these sort of ways anymore, because you develop habits and patterns and neural pathways and all that stuff that happens in the brain and in the soul. And I want to help kids prevent that. I use the analogy of one time when I was 17 or 18, I was in my room and I had gotten like a switchblade knife. I thought it was really cool. Right. And so I was using it to
They are pretty cool. They are
cool. I have a few now. Right. But I was sitting there, I was like opening up a package, right, with my knife. And I'm sitting there and I slipped with the knife and I stabbed myself in the thigh. And I pull the knife out of my thigh. The blood's just pouring down my leg. I'm in my room like, oh crap. Right. And just blood just pouring out. And I probably needed stitches, but I didn't want to tell anyone. I was embarrassed at the time that I had stabbed myself in the leg.
Yeah. Yeah. What kind of gangster stabs himself with his own switchblade?
Not me, right? But I still have a scar, and if I press the scar on my thigh, it still hurts, right? If I press to this day, it was probably almost 10 years ago. And so I use that analogy with what they're doing with social media and the stuff they're consuming. It's like stabbing your soul or your brain with a knife.
Wow.
Right? It's leaving a scar, and it's very quick to do the damage, and it takes a long, long time to heal. And that's what I've experienced in my personal life, dealing with everything that I let into my mind and into my heart. I did damage really quick, and I didn't realize that the healing takes a bit longer than the damage does. So
this is one of my prized possessions.
That is way cooler than mine.
Yeah, this makes me this is what I wanted when I was probably like 7 years old. But it was worth the wait till I was 40 whenever someone gave it to me as a gift. Thank you for buying me this, whoever bought me this. And I don't live in California. Not legal in California.
Oh.
Imagine you're having a daughter. Imagine one of the ways I raise my boys is I want my boys to be good mates. And imagine this cohort of young boys that's grown up like this now. And that's the choice for girls out there.
Yeah.
It's a fucking disaster.
Yeah. I have a kid who works for me, 17. His name's Ian. And he's like my only hope for his age group right now. Because all his buddies and friends I've met, I'm like, I don't even, you know what I'm talking about. Just weird and awkward and shy and not mature and not tough. And like, I'm like, what is going on with men, And if you start saying that and it's like, oh, you're being massaged or whatever they say. And it's like, no, there's a real issue with like the man they're trying to kill the man, and masculinity and all these things that men are supposed to be, our kids are not growing up with because of all this medicating and what they're being fed on social media and all the sensitivity and stuff that's going on.
You think that the cell phone do you think it's one of the root causes of this? Just people getting phones too early. I remember coming home from school and my mom not being there, and we had encyclopedias, and then we had these two massive dictionaries, and I would look up bad words. Most of them weren't in there, right? But I would like look up like dick, it wasn't in there. I'd look up fuck, it wasn't in there. And then finally I'd look up bitch, and it's in there, but it has a shitty definition. It's a female dog. Yeah. And I'm like this, or I look up fag, and it has nothing to do with home. Yeah, and I'm just like this. But that's what my friends and I would do. We're in the 8th grade. We're 13, and I've snuck them over to the house, and we're looking at bad words. But if I would have had a phone, I would have put together some crazy words. Like, you know what I mean? I would have looked up just fucking anything, as an 8th grade boy. I think there'd be no end to my creativity.
Right. And I don't think the cell phone is the root, right? The root is we have a nature to be drawn towards those types of things, towards things that are
we want that stimulus,
right?
Yeah, yeah.
And there is a rebellion nature in all of us that we will use these tools and get addicted to very quickly. So cell phone is just your encyclopedia exponentially, now they're made available to way, 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 way more. So it's the same nature probably that you had or that I had as a kid, but the tools now to feed that are just astronomically more advanced in a negative way. I mean, I don't think that cell phones are evil, is what I'm trying to say. I think there's a nature in us that is drawn to evil, and we use cell phones to access all that. And you can use them in a good way, obviously. I don't think people created them with the intention necessarily to kill kids and make them depressed and suicidal and all that stuff. Obviously not. But that's what they're being used for. And evil will take advantage of these tools, knowing how accessible they can be to kids. I remember when I was a kid, I'd go in a bookstore like Barnes & Noble where you could listen to CDs and like test them out before you buy them. And I'd go try to find all the rap CDs with the bad lyrics, like Eminem, while my mom shopped for her books, and I'd be in there and listen to Eminem just like cussing and stuff. I'd be like, yeah, like 10 years old. Right. And so imagine that now. It's like now you have a phone, you have Spotify or Apple Music, and your parents have an account for free, and you just go on and listen whenever you want. And so
yeah, I would go to the library and find the Playboy magazines.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, it was an iPod Touch, and I'd go on Google Images and look up like boobies,
Yeah.
And I'd just save them all to my camera roll.
I probably have still done that in the last 10 years. Maybe. I don't want to like admit anything, but maybe I've done that.
Right. But now you don't have to look for it. Now it's
right. It's everywhere.
Instagram and it's already there for you. And so kids are not even looking anymore. They're just they're just seeing it. And then those habits start being formed.
I have to tell you this story. We would go to the library. My friend, his name was Patrick and Andrew, and we were in the 8th grade, and we would go to the library, and they would have Playboy magazines there, and we would get the Playboy magazines, and we would open up to the centerfold, and then when the librarian, this is the public library, not the school library, and when the librarian would get up from her table, we would go set the centerfold wide open on her desk, and then go away like 30 or 40 feet. And then when she would come back to her desk, she would see it. And then we would walk over and ask her, we were catching her looking at it. We would plant it on her desk. And then we would ask her a question like, we're looking for, what are you looking at, Miss So-and-so? She'd have like the name tag on, and it would be, those would be the crazy stunts we would do. We were ahead of our time. If we would have had cell phones, then we would have filmed that shit. I highly recommend you do that to your local librarian kids with your cell phone.
What a beautiful setup.
I think kids are gonna do stuff like that, right? And they have that nature and pull pranks and be funny and all that stuff. So, I think it's better that we make this content, have this messaging, and say, hey, okay, you're gonna do stuff like that sometimes, but I want you to be aware of what it can happen if you start getting into all that stuff in a negative way and all that. And so no one was going to keep you from doing that, right? But it'd be better if they told you at the time too, like, all right, you're going to look at this, you're going to see this stuff, and you might think it's funny or whatever, but here's the negative side of it. And just parents being very real, about these kind of things that if they start treating them the wrong way, it could turn into something really negative and dark and unhealthy for them. So
I wish I could remember the name of this book, but there was this book that this author wrote. She was a female. I heard her being interviewed, and she was talking about how she went into the country somewhere, and she met a guy, and they had sex, and the sex with this guy was so different than any other guy she'd ever had sex with, and she was tripping on it. And then about a year into the relationship, she realized the guy had never seen porn.
Oh, wow.
And because of that, and I can't even remember the characteristics of the intimacy that she detailed, but how different it was, right? With a guy who had never seen porn and she came from New York City versus coming from an area where it was those guys probably watch porn every single fucking day.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing maybe that I'm hearing from you that most needs to be conveyed. These things will change you when you see them. Do you want them to? Are you okay with them changing you? Right?
Yeah, you should not be okay. But they don't know how it's going to change them, and so someone has to show them that and say, hey, because you look at a naked woman on a screen, you're like, there's nothing wrong with this. This is great, and it's like, well, let me show you. I'm 10 years ahead of you of having done all that, and here's what I've dealt with now being in a marriage, right? And now I'm with someone solely for the rest of my life, having to depart from my mental habits that were formed of what girl am I looking at today, and having this sexual kind of moment with today. And all of a sudden you start catching yourself looking at women walking down the street like, oh, I wonder if she'd be nice to, whatever. And all these thoughts that you start having. And then you're like, why am I thinking like that? And it's like, well, because I just opened my eyes to woman after woman after woman after woman after woman on my screen in my alone time every single day. And now here I am going to be a father of a daughter who's supposed to raise up a woman, you know, be married to a woman, loyal to her, and I'm fighting these old thought patterns of like, ew, I don't want to think like that, you know? Definitely.
Audrey, kids cuss to their parents nowadays. It's disgusting. My kids cuss. They're only 6 and 8. It's disgusting. It's one thing to say cuss words in front of them, but even in 34 years, I've said 2 cuss words in front of my dad. It's called respect. My kid said 300 cuss words in front of me yesterday. But I will tell you this. Well, I don't have to defend it, but maybe we'll come back to that in a second. If you think cuss words are if you can get a kid to make eye contact and say hi to every adult and shake their hand, and I will get into that. I think that there's nuances. Wad Zombie, the chat wants to know, is Dominic religious? Dominic, you are religious, right?
Is it the painting? I don't use that word religious.
Okay.
Religious to me sounds like rules.
Are you a follower of Christ? Are you Christian?
I love Jesus. Yeah, I do.
Jesus.
And honestly, that's kind of what's helped me get through all of that garbage that I put into my mind for years and years. I grew up in a rough family situation. My mom was addicted to alcohol. I've had 5 or so stepdads. We moved around a lot and just went through a lot of crap. And
5 stepdads, you said?
Yeah. A lot of divorce, a lot of drug abuse and stuff, alcohol abuse I witnessed, verbal abuse, and all sorts of things. And my mom did one good thing. She did many good things, but one good thing that she did was she decided to take me to church when I was 9 years old. And I started being fed things that really helped me, things that didn't make me feel like alone and afraid and negative and dark. And that really, I feel like, kept me grounded and solid throughout my childhood and everything that we went through. I departed from that when I started looking at all this stuff, right? And getting into my own ways and living on my own. And for years, I dealt with addiction. I dealt with temptation. I dealt with anxiety and depression and suicidal thoughts and panic and all sorts of things. And I didn't realize that was a result of me having departed from what was keeping me grounded and going into all this garbage and stuff that I was consuming. So that's kind of part of my story. Only in recent years have I kind of fixed my relationship with God, and I very much credit that to where I am today and me being able to do this work. And so, am I a religious? No, you know what I mean. I don't look at it that way. I have a relationship with God that has absolutely changed my life, and that's that. You know?
What was there something that this reconnecting with Jesus? Was there a moment that it happened? Is there a story that there's a day, a moment in time where you reconnected?
Yeah. So I was living in LA, and I was living a real cool life. You know, I had a 3-story loft in LA. I was driving the Mustang I always wanted. I was working with celebrities and influencers, and I was doing my thing, but I was absolutely miserable. I lived alone. I was alone. I was having panic attacks all the time. I was trying to self-medicate, like I was talking about with the nicotine and all that stuff, and just nothing was working. I got very desperate. And there was one instance where one night my friends had come over and we were playing basketball, and it was like a totally fine night. And my heart just started racing like crazy. And I just started getting like overwhelming thoughts come upon me. And I'm sure a lot of people watching have had this experience where like you just randomly, it's like having a hard time trying to get a grip on your mind and just thoughts are coming in. So I just got this panic, and I went to a full panic attack for like 2 or 3 hours. My friends were like, I really thought I was going to die. I mean, my friends were like sitting there, like grabbing me, like, dude, it's okay. It's okay for 2 or 3 hours. Finally calm down. And in that moment, I think when you think you're going to die and you're faced with death, many people will in that instance cry out to God. And it takes reaching that point for someone to go, oh my gosh, I might leave my body right now. Where am I going? God help me, right? And so I had to get to that point where I was like, oh no, God, please, God. And then so I calmed down, right? And so I got to that point where I was like, oh my gosh, if I had died right then, what am I doing? I have all this stuff. I have money. I'm working with these people, but like, what does it all mean? Why I don't have peace in my life? I don't have joy. And it just really put a mirror in front of my face of like, what am I turning into? And I just had a desire after that to get right with God again, because I remembered that peace and that joy that I had as a kid when my mom took me to church and I had a relationship with Jesus. And so I called my grandparents, who were pretty much the only Christian people that I knew presently at that time. And I said, hey, I want to go to a church here in LA. Will you guys meet me? And they drove almost an hour from where they live to go to this little church that was being held in elementary school with me. And I sat in the back row and they played the worship music and they were singing. I was standing there all tough because I was all LA cool guy. And I just broke and tears started coming down my face. And I felt that presence of God again that I knew when I was a kid. And I knew that I was going to be all right, but I knew I had some work to do to get back on the right track. And so living in LA, I started going to church again, 1 foot in the world, 1 foot walking with God, trying to break all these old lifestyle patterns that I had created. And he was very patient with me, led me to Idaho. Again, going back to the values of why I moved here, came out here with my wife and we just said, hey, are we just going to live halfway in? Or are we going to really try this thing out? And I said, no, I want to know if Jesus is legit. I want to know if this Christian walk is real and what it'll do for my life. And since then, our life has been a living testimony of exactly that. We've followed the Lord, which sounds religious to some people, but all it is just walking with him, being led by him, being in prayer, right? And just having a relationship with God. And we've been so blessed as a result. Addictions have fallen off. Anxiety has fallen off. Depression's fallen off. We love people more. We want to serve and give to people more. We have more joy and love in our relationship. We fight less. And it's totally as a result of who I've learned about Jesus and the relationship I have with him. There's nothing religious about it. So
how many years ago?
That when I went to church that day was about 4 years ago. And I'd say it took me to get to the point where I was kind of felt like I was living a double life. And I was like, all right, am I really going to see if this is real or not? Because a lot of people will go to church, religious, right? I'll go to church every Sunday. I'll say a prayer over my food. You're not experiencing God. You're going to experience the heart change, right? And his love and these things that are very real until you actually go in and say, all right, I'm going to try this your way. Here's this Bible that we have. It's the oldest book in all of the world, right? And I'm going to see if this actually works. So let me try this out, and then say, it took me 2 or 3 years to actually commit to doing that. And as a result, we've been very blessed. So
Matt Burns says there are no atheists in foxholes.
What is
that? When I saw your movie last night and I was looking at your Instagram account, let me go back a second. I'm going to say something. LA is not a good place. That should be the opening line of a book. Los Angeles is a trippy place. And the vast majority of people I know who grew up there, even the most realist and kindest of them, have a veneer on them that I don't think that they know that they have on them. It is fucking weird. And I thought for sure when you came on the show today that you were going to have that veneer. And I have not seen it once. It's crazy. Even those, I've heard this same talk from other people from LA that I'm hearing from you about, but man, like you're doing it. I sense no LA veneer on you. I don't know how you were able to wash it off, but there is this, it's not all the people there, of course. It's not all the people there. But a ton of them, especially in your line of work, have a veneer on them that is, for me, intolerable.
Yeah.
Completely fucking intolerable. It's I wish I could describe it without being so negative, but because I want to use the word, it's just this douchebag thing. But I have a good friend down there now in Orange County, and they basically told me that everyone in LA is a liar and that they just accept it. Like everyone will just lie to you about their accolades, what they do, and I almost feel it. It's weird. It's a trippy place.
I was living a fake life. I want to correct something I said. I think I said the Bible's the oldest book. I don't know if that's true. It's the most reproduced book we have from the old ages. I think we have the most translations of that book. It's the most vetted book that we have historically. Wow. So I wanted to correct that. If I said something incorrect, I wanted to make that clear. As far as living in LA, that's exactly what I was feeling. I think that's a result of why I had the anxiety and stuff I did, is because the person I was outside was a lot different than who I was inside. And you could imagine living these two personalities and they're just pulling, and it creates this tension. And so here's what people know me as and what I want them to think I am. And here's what I know I actually am right now. And that's over time living there. I feel like those two go farther and farther apart, because you want people to think you're so much cooler, so much better, becomes an addiction. And then in the inside, you're just like becoming weaker and weaker, realizing that you're living a lie. And that tension is what I describe as that anxiety and panic that I had, where you're like, oh my gosh, I can't do that. It's like an actual tension in my chest that I was living with for years. And I had to get out. I had to break it off. It was disgusting. Some people live comfortably in that way. I don't know how they do it.
I think maybe ignorance is bliss too. I think ignorance is bliss too. Some people think that they actually are that thing, right? They don't even know that I think some of those people don't even know that they put on a veneer, right? They just completely lost themselves. Yeah. How did you meet your wife?
So here's a God story, because there are no coincidences like this. So I was shooting a video for Platinum Motorsport, which is in LA. And they had an event with Floyd Mayweather. It was their LA is all fake it till you make it. Yeah, it is.
That's a great description, David. Yeah, that's what my friends tell me down there. Tell me, yeah.
So I was shooting this video for this red carpet event, right? And I was like seeing celebrities left and right. And speaking of veneer, I was trying to act all like whatever, cool at this event. So I'm on this red carpet. All these people are coming in, and I see this beautiful woman. You could look her up on Instagram if you want. If someone wants to pull her up, Sevan Tierno, Samara.
Oh yeah, she is hot. I'd look her up.
Oh, thanks. So I put her. So I see her on the side of this red carpet. There's this girl. All these celebrities coming in, and here's this girl like standing on her phone, looking around like by herself. And I'm like, what is she doing? Is she lost? Like, does she need help? But I'm working, so I'm like, okay, I can't go up and talk to this girl, but I want to make sure she's okay. Anyway, there's a breaking point where my friend pulls up to this red carpet. He's in a car, obviously, with two other people. One is this really tall African-American guy, and the other one is Neo, the music artist. So they hop out. Here's my friend. I'm like, what's up, bro? And I turn, I'm like, Neo? Right? And then here's the girl I was just staring at for an hour at the red carpet, hugging this very tall African-American man. And I'm like, crap, that's her boyfriend. I can't talk to her because I don't want to fight that guy. You know what I mean? And so we go into this event. I'm filming and like trying to go back, talk to my friend, still like mesmerized by her, going back, filming, talking to her, talking to Neo. And then we hang out for like 4 to 6 hours, and I never introduced myself whatsoever. I think I maybe had got her name from my friend, but I didn't get her Instagram, didn't get her number. I thought she was dating this guy. Turns out she wasn't. I didn't know that. That was just a friend that she had met. That was her first night in LA. That's why she was on her phone looking around. She had no idea where she was. I was the only person she knew, and he had said, hey, if you want to come to this event tonight, come check it out, whatever. So she went.
Where was she from? Where first night in LA, where was she from?
She is from, my wife was born and raised in Newark, New Jersey.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Hood.
Yeah.
Her parents she's first generation. Her parents are from Brazil. So my wife's Brazilian.
Oh, well, that's good. That balances it out. New Jersey. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So 2 weeks go by. I'm still thinking about her. I'm like, come on, give me another chance. I need another chance. Right? I'm hanging out with this other girl who has a boyfriend. I was friends with the couple. And she's like, Dom, we need to get you set up. which people have said, before. And I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. She's like, no. I know this girl. She's new to LA. You guys would be perfect for each other. You have no idea. And I'm like, all right, whatever. People say that. I'm like, what does she look like? So she pulls up her Instagram, shows me the phone, and I go, oh my
Dude,
word.
LA is not small for people who don't know. That does
Millions
not
of
happen
people
in
in
Los
LA.
Angeles. Yeah.
Had nothing to do with the event that we were at whatsoever. Totally, like 30 minutes away, millions of people in LA. And she goes, here's the one for you. And I look at the phone and I go, oh my gosh, we got to call her right now. This is crazy. She's going to flip out. So she's like, oh my gosh, this is so exciting. You guys are going to be married. This and that. And she's like calling him, she FaceTimes. I'm like, you're on FaceTime. I need to talk to her now. Now I got all this confidence, like this is meant to be, And so she gets her on FaceTime, says, Samara, you won't believe who I'm with right now. And then I'm like getting ready, and she turns the phone. She's like, and I'm like, hey, what's up? And Samara just goes, I'm like, it's me from the party. We were at Platinum Motorsport, and then we went to that club after, and we were Neo, and blah, blah, blah. And she's like, and I'm like, no, you have to remember. She had no idea where she was. She didn't know that was Neo. It was her first night in LA. She had no idea what we did that night whatsoever. She had no idea where we were. So she's not remembering, and I clearly didn't make much of an impression. I'm okay.
She didn't remember you at all? She didn't remember the camera guy?
Now she remembers.
Oh, she's lying. She's lying. We get no love. The camera guys get no love.
You're not lying. Come on. We're married now. You better not be lying. This is the foundation of our relationship. No, just kidding. No.
What kind of camera did you have?
I had a Sony A7S II. It was on a gimbal.
Yeah, girl. She saw you then. She remembers
the black jackets. She remembered, but at first it was just me. It was dark. I'm like on the FaceTime, this guy saying, "Remember me?" She had no idea like who I was at that
By the way, I saw your LA side when you did that.
What?
When you did that, that's the first time I seen it. When you did, hey girl,
yeah,
like I saw it. That was good. You still got it if you need it.
It's in there somewhere. But yeah, that was crazy. It was 2 weeks later. We were on the FaceTime, and then turned out she was totally friends with it. It was like the only other people she had met in between that period of time, and so I was just like, well, this has to be something because someone's statistic, who knows, please calculate what that is. It's got to be 1 in millions odds of that happening. And so it took a while for us to actually go on a date. She was a model traveling, and so she had left LA, come to LA, left LA. And like I said, we were living different lifestyles at that point. She was going to clubs, I was going to parties and all this stuff. So it took a while. And actually,
was that before the anxiety attack that you met her or after?
No.
That night on the carpet, that's before anxiety attack?
No, that was after.
After, okay.
It was after. That was after I'd gone back to church. That happened. And we did not start dating until she came back to LA one time after being gone for what, babe? 6 months? A year. She'd been gone from LA for almost a year and came back to LA. And that night we re-met again at Mosaic, which is a church in Hollywood, at church that night. And
the day she came back, you made arrangements to see her.
No, I didn't make arrangements. I went to church. She came back to LA asking her friends where I was. We hadn't hardly talked at that point.
That's a good sign.
She came out to, where's Dom? Is he going to church? And so I went to church. She went to Mosaic, same church that night. I walk into church, had no idea she was back. And I just hear, Dom. And I look and turn to her, and she's like, and she had never looked at me like that before. I was like, because we barely, like that cool thing had happened, but we had barely talked or anything. And so she described.
Were you tracking her that whole year though through social media? Like, were you like making sure, like keeping tabs on her?
What's funny is I wasn't, because after that had happened, that amazing thing happened, and then we're on FaceTime and she didn't really remember who I was, and then nothing really happened after that point. I kind of got discouraged, and I was like,
right, like you contracted back.
Or I was like, maybe this wasn't what I thought it was. What's going on? But while she was gone traveling, people would DM me. One kid from Brazil, actually, who followed her, sent her profile to me and said, hey, you should date her. And I'm like,
again?
Oh,
no shit, I'm trying.
Yeah. Like, yeah, thanks, Captain Obvious. It's like, so they're sending me her profile, and I'm like, what is going on with this girl? And anyway, so it wasn't until we went church that night, and then we reconnect. And from there, I say that's God's timing. It was the right time for us to start our relationship, and it was just from there. We got married, a year and 7 months later. So, yeah.
You seem like a very brave man, dude. I know documentary filmmaking is a shit ton of work. You've saved a ton of people's lives. You have in my opinion, you're going down the right path by giving all your shit away free. Because we those of us that do that end up getting rewarded handsomely, and you shouldn't do it for that reason. Absolutely not. But the world is the world's a magical place, and I think that when you help others, the world will conspire to help you. I don't think that. I know that. And it seems like you've landed on that pathway, and it sounds like you found your North Star through Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's a very biblical worldview view that you just said, and which is sowing and reaping, which is basically the world.
Sowing and reaping. Yeah.
The world says I need to take, right, and I'm going to store up for myself, and I need to get mine, so I'm going to make the films that pay me the most money. I could have went and made music videos or porn or whatever, you know what I mean? And OnlyFans. Can you imagine the temptation there was to start doing that when I was in LA, being able to film and stuff? Anyway, and the Bible says, no, we're going to give and we're going to sow in, and then we're going to reap as a result of that. And so I do believe the success we've had doing this has been a result of us saying, no, we're going to give this, and we're going to do it for the right reason and not selfishly. And we've totally been blessed as a result. So yeah, that's how it works. And I think it's universal. You don't have to believe in Jesus right now for that to work for you. I think God will prove himself to you, and that his way works before you make that decision. I think.
Yeah, like I don't believe in Jesus, but I'm totally open to it. Come get me.
That's great. You know,
cut that clip. Cut that clip. 136. Send that to God. Tell him to send his son down and get me.
He will.
Dominic, what a pleasure to meet you. I should have known Jorge Ventura would not have sent me a chump. You are a fucking class act, dude. And you have my phone number. I'd love to stay in touch with you. I don't sleep by my phone. You can text me 24 hours a day. I would love. You didn't give me your phone number. You're one of those weirdos that does everything by email. I'd like to have your phone number. I'd like to be friends with you.
We texted.
Oh, we did. Oh, you know what? I think Sousa, the executive producer, left me off that text. He called. We did text.
We did text.
Or else I would have texted this morning, because yesterday he said, "Oh, I left you off the communications." That's the first time I've done that in 700 shows or something.
Well, then were they texting as you? Because we texted and you're like,
no. Then I did text, and I'm just a horrible rememberer. Okay, so you're not a weirdo. I'm just an old man with a bad memory.
He's really bad.
Please stay in touch. If there's anything I can ever do to help promote, point light at any of the projects you're working on, you're always welcome.
Whenever next one comes out.
Yeah, for sure. You're always welcome on the show. Idaho is a place that, in the back of my mind, is a place that I would like to maybe move someday. And so you have been a good role model, an example for me that you weren't scared and you packed up and hit the road. By the way, your house is beautiful. I saw it on Instagram.
Thank you so much. Yeah, come visit. I'd love to. Man, it'd be so cool to meet you and just show you how things are out here. It'd be really fun.
Thank you. What camera are you using now?
For this?
Just what's your go-to camera now? For your, because you said the Sony A7 II, and that was a few years ago. And I'm a huge A7S III guy. I'm just giddy every time I see it.
Can you give me the box?
Sitting there.
Another God thing. I just found this guy on Craigslist. He's a film teacher for 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
And he was selling this.
Uh-oh.
This is my nerdy side, right?
Yeah, I love the nerdy side.
They point the screen down. Look at that.
What is it?
This. So it's a Lumix S5.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. Right? Yeah.
But we converted all of these vintage Canon lenses.
Oh, my goodness.
to adapt to the S5. So these are from like the 80s and stuff, right? They're Canon FD lenses. They look like a Leica when you shoot through them. And so I have this 4K camera, which the other camera I use is a Blackmagic. It shoots Blackmagic for all the 6K Pro. So this, when you hook the Blackmagic Video Assist up to it, the recorder, you can shoot Blackmagic 6K through this camera with vintage Canon film lenses, like cine lenses on it. And it just looks so amazing. It's beautiful. You should, if you're a camera guy, oh my gosh.
I'm a camera nerd. And by the way, when someone talks about they know the relationship between Panasonic and Leica, then you know they're a dork. A camera dork, because Panasonic did buy Leica just a couple of years ago, and the Leica lenses have something so freaking special about them.
I'm a dweeb, man. So I do want a Leica though.
You're a dweeb with a hot wife and a cool family and a great story. So give you a pass.
And a good God.
Yes, and a good God. We'll be in touch. Thanks for coming on. The movies are. Please go watch them now on YouTube. That you will not be disappointed. You guys know I will never send you somewhere. If I thought they were shit, I would not tell you this. Dead on Arrival and Knox's Story. You will be very happy you watched them. They will change your life for the better.
They're both in the description now.
Oh, good. All right, brother. Please stay in touch. I'll do the same.
All right. Thank you so much for having me. This was awesome.
Absolutely.
All right. Be blessed, guys.
And the buzzing is gone. Damn, I had such low expectations for him. I had so low expectations for him.
Now look at you. You liked it.
My goodness. Yeah, he's cool as shit. I loved it that he opened that camera case on his chest. That's like
such a dork. I'm like, oh my God.
And by the way, the knife does have a this knife doesn't have a safety. It has a case. You have to keep it in this black case, because if this thing fires off in your pocket, you're toast. You're toast.
Just sever your whole leg off for that thing,
dude. God, he's cool. God, I don't meet very really many people. I think they're that cool. He's cool.
I'm gonna have to go watch those movies.
Brace yourself, dude. Hey, put that on in the Chow Hall. Dead on Arrival. Oh, people will be fucked up. It's a diet film. It'll stop you from eating. Yeah, I love how God uses Sevan to spread the gospel through the show. I know it's crazy, right? What's he doing? That's why I think like I just get scraped up at the last minute. I think like everyone gets saved, and at the last minute, like when I think it's over and I'm going to be stuck here on earth with fucking all, what do you guys call him? Satan and all those dudes. He's going to pick me up by the neck and be like, good job, son. And I'll be like, what the fuck? Why'd you wait so long?
Just playing a little joke on you.
Yeah. And that's why I do CrossFit. By the way, one time I went to, I went to a gym and oh shit. Yeah. Oh shit, the van needs gas. I have to take the kids skateboarding. I want to tell you this quick story real quick. I went to Los Angeles with Greg, and I think Dave was there, and Miranda Alcaraz from the founder of Street Parking. And we went down there, and there was a guy there who needed a one-on-one training at this CrossFit box. And Miranda, I think, was his coach, and it was Neo. I had no idea who he was, but he pulled up in a all crazy Rolls Royce, and he got out of the car, and then him and Miranda became good friends. And Miranda can rap. For those of you who don't know, Miranda Alcaraz can like really rap. Like she's a rapper, and it was pretty cool to see watch her and Neo hit it off. So. Jeremy E. World, Sevan, we are all vessels, Sevan, being used for the greater good if we allow it. Well, thank you. That's what I'm trying to do. All right, I'm gonna go put gas in my van. Oh God, I'm so humbled to say that. And for me, that's really humbling for me to say that, to tell you guys that I'm actually gonna get out and swipe my own credit card and touch the actual pump.
Wow, somebody doesn't pump it for you.
I know. It's a sad day. And then I'm going to go to the skate park And I'll probably call Matt Souza and be like, how come more show? Oh, I scheduled the show with Brian Friend, by the way. So you don't have to you don't have to do that one. And that show is going to be nuts, guys. That All Things CrossFit show. Boy, we got some crazy shit. Good shit to tell you. God, I have so many exciting things to tell you guys that I'm like just sitting on because I need multiple sources. So yeah, I love my Sienna. I always wanted a van since I was a little kid. I wanted like the A-Team van. And then I always wanted a Sienna. And then finally, once I had 3 kids, my wife's like, go ahead. Like, yeah. I think it's the only new car I've ever bought.
What a treat.
Have you ever bought a new car, Caleb?
No, I've always bought used.
Yeah. No, the Brian show I don't think is today. Is that today?
No, I don't think so.
No, I don't think there is a show tonight.
Mm-mm.
Okay. All right, guys. I will see you guys tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. I think we have 2 shows tomorrow, 7 and 9 a.m. Do we?
Correct.
We have Lauren Connor. It's our CrossFit Affiliate Series show. Oh, and then Brian at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Yeah, that show's going to be off the hook. I'm also trying to do a show. Maybe, I forget what Souza said, but maybe there's going to be 3 shows tomorrow. There'll be a show tomorrow night also. All right. Cool. Bye, Jessica. See you guys later. Wad Zombie, thanks for the money. And we'll see you guys later. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.